it's already kicking off. There we go.
I need to out-angle you.
Get it facing really close to it. 5 head for days. Oh wait. So, my head is out of this. It is on, yeah.
I didn't realise. That was embarrassing.
Well, alright, so, so this is our first podcast. So hello, this is our first podcast, and we've been wanting to do this for a while. So we thought we should just get on it and finally do one. And basically, we've got a bunch of topics that we want to talk about as far as weight loss, gaining muscle, getting stronger, all these kind of things, how to do it, and keep it really, really simple, because it is often needlessly overcomplicated in the industry. So anyway, just to introduce ourselves here, I'm Charlie, or Charles, whatever.
2 names.
2 names, I've got 2. And yeah, I'm a personal trainer, I work in Brighton, I'm also a strongman and a powerlifter. This is Gus.
Yeah, he's just going to lead the whole thing. So, yeah, my name's Gus, I'm a personal trainer and a strength coach in Brighton as well, and that's how we met.
And now we're best friends. Anyway, so basically, as I kind of mentioned, we're going to mostly just try to, get
rid of all the nonsense that's on social media. So you read like a million different things that basically just doesn't help you at all and stops people training. And we're going to kind of give you a real way of how we're both natural athletes, so how we sort of built up our strength levels and physiques. And so
he's got quite a large arm.
Yeah, embarrassingly, it caught me at the beginning.
But
trying to
it's quite good. Basically, so this first episode we want to talk about weight loss and how to lose weight, simply how to lose weight. There's so many common misconceptions around how to lose weight, and it really is quite easy, but people, again, needlessly overcomplicate it. So what you want to be doing as far as weight loss, first things first, track your calories. If you're not tracking your calories, it's a guessing game. And I know it's a pain in the arse, and everyone's always saying, oh, I don't know if I have time, I can't be arsed, blah, blah, blah. It takes maybe 2-3 minutes a day.
It takes longer at the beginning, but in terms of like length of time, as soon as you've done it, like let's use the most popular one, like MyFitnessPal, as soon as you've done it, it's in there. So if you eat often the same kinds of foods each day, which typically people do, unless you're like a chef, it will appear. Like the amount you eat will appear. So it's not going to be like, oh, I've got to work out everything each time. It will just be there, and you just whack it in. Yeah. Do it at the same time as making the food, which is hardly.
Yeah, exactly. Or even like while you're eating, fork in one hand, tracking with the other hand. It's really and that's the biggest mistake, is people trying to guess, and then often I found that those people who are trying to lose weight, who might be more on the overweight side, are typically underestimating how many calories they're having, and they're like, oh, I'm only on 2,000 calories or whatever, and you actually go, okay, can you please just track everything that you're having and eat normally? And then you find they're actually on 3,300 or something like that, and it's because they weren't considering the butter, the cream, the oils, all this kind of stuff, for example.
Liquids.
Well, not even just that, but also just like carbs. They're not measuring it properly. They're like, oh, a small handful of rice or whatever, and it's like actually a lot more than they thought.
If you eat a carrot, then everything's void and you're fine.
Yeah, just vegetables will... No, so let's not start joking, because we don't want anyone to think...
Carrots at lunchtime, anything you want in the evening.
Yeah, then you can have whatever you want the rest of the day and you're fine.
Carrot sticks to other people, so it looks like you're really healthy.
Anyway, obviously the next thing as well is a caloric deficit, a calorie deficit. That's the most important thing here. If you want to lose weight and you're not in a deficit, you're not going to lose weight. Now, the main thing here is, though, that you want to try to drop a small... I'm sorry. Is that you drop a small amount of weight at a time. We don't need to be like drastically dropping your weight suddenly. In fact, that's probably...
Small deficit as possible.
Small deficit, and try to, we're talking, what do you typically do? 200 to 300 calories?
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I do.
With some people, you can get away with 100,
Yeah.
But yeah, you want it to be, as long as you're losing if you're losing a small amount, say like each week, but that's probably a little bit too short, but every couple of weeks, you just keep it there. Don't need to change it, because we forgot to mention this actually. With the weight loss, everyone talks about weight loss, but we're actually talking about body fat loss, right? So if you're in a huge deficit, which everyone goes, like when you first get clients, people are like, oh, let me just go on 1,000 calories and I'll lose all the weight and it'll be unbelievable, and whoa, but you lose loads of muscle to that as well. Super restrictive. It's also crazy depressing. And where do you go from that? 500, and then you just eat air.
Yeah.
So body fat loss is what we're really talking about here, but weight loss is what everyone thinks it is.
Yeah. And really, like, the nightmare situation that people are not really aware of is skinny fat. Like, that's the worst. Like, you do not want to be skinny fat where you've still got a relatively high body fat percentage and no muscle mass on your frame. It doesn't look good. So this is why a smaller deficit is always better, because then if you're weight training at the same time and you're able to put on some muscle, then when you're going to be dropping, it's going to be, you know, smaller increments of body fat that you're dropping, but you're going to be able to maintain way more of the muscle that you're holding on to.
And you can keep your calories higher. Yeah, so if you've actually got some muscle, you can keep your calories higher. So that deficit, it's not so overwhelming. You're not so hungry all the time. You know, you can actually, it's a sustainable lifestyle, really. Yeah. Whereas if you,
and that's the thing we want to talk about as well, is that it's like with weight loss, with, you know, weight gain as well. If we're trying to stick on muscle or lose fat or whatever, we don't ever suggest someone follows a specific diet that works, because there isn't one. It's what works for you and that fits in with your lifestyle, but it does have to be, no matter what, a deficit. You know, if it's a deficit, you will drop weight. So the next thing as well is satiating foods. That's really important here as well, because if you feel hungry all the time, you will eat more. And that's obviously a problem. If you're trying to lose weight, you need to be in a little bit of a deficit. And if you're not having satiating foods, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, if you're essentially just drinking all your calories and your calorie, say you're like a 50 kilo person, right? And you've got a very small amount of calories to play with, but it's still relatively okay for your size, and you're filling them up with like liquids, oils, and like really dense foods like chocolate bars and whatever.
Or nuts and stuff like that as well.
Which people seem to believe is like super high in protein. They have protein in, but the main components
of nuts
is
mostly fiber, fat and carbs.
We seem to forget that and go, no, it's high protein, it's okay. Well, relatively, it's high protein. And then I can't remember if we mentioned it, but you've got to track your protein as well, along with tracking your macros, right? So we're looking at gram per pound of lean body mass, although a lot of the research at the moment is suggesting just to go for a gram per pound, unless you're like in that 20, 30+% body fat, well, sort of 20% plus for men, 30% plus for women, then maybe that's a little bit unrealistic and hard for you to get every single day. But if you're not, you want to go in that sort of
just
gram per pound.
For an example as well, so a gram per pound, an idea, just like, so if you're 100 kg body weight, that would be around 220 grams of protein. Basically 220 grams of protein. So especially when you're losing weight as well, an important thing here is to try and keep your protein higher as well, because if you're dropping weight, your body is going to try to get rid of the muscle as well as the fat. So keep your protein high so that you can continue to have protein synthesis and continue to try and hold on to as much muscle as possible. If your protein's low, it might be much easier for that muscle to disappear as well as the fat.
And it's the most satiating macronutrient. So following on, like, you want to eat foods that are high in satiety. Nailed it. We're having loads of protein.
Exactly.
2 birds, 1 stone.
I thought you put it to your mouth though. I thought you were doing like a shush thing.
Be silent and just listen to the facts.
Next thing is track steps. So tracking steps is quite an easy thing to do. I mean, if you've got your phone, like most people have like a stepometer or whatever on their phone, it might not be exactly accurate, but it's going to give you a pretty good idea of your overall, step count for the day. Now, the mistake that some people make is to try to calculate that expenditure and then worry about what their intake needs to be based on that expenditure. So they're like, well, I've done 15,000 steps today instead of 10, so I can eat more. Don't do it based on that. Try to be consistent with your your steps per day, and then keep your intake what your intake is always. And then once you stop losing weight or whatever, then you can think about either increasing your expenditure or dropping your calories more.
Yeah, with anything, don't, like, often these apps that estimate how much activity you've done by putting it in, like, they overestimate massively.
Yeah.
So
yeah, a lot of them, like, you're walking for you do a 10-minute walk and they're like, that's 500 calories, and it's like, no, it's not.
And that often sets people back, and then people are like, well, I don't know, they'll spend like 4 hours walking uphill on a treadmill to get an extra 1,000 calories. In reality, they actually only burnt like 400 because they were going like 3 miles an hour. Yeah. Although that's actually quite fast as a walk. That's relatively okay.
Quite good.
That's not too bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. The last thing, as far as what's going to be really important for weight loss, is weight training.
Body fat loss.
Training with weight. Now, I don't mean like weightlifting. I don't mean clean and jerk and the snatch and all the Olympic movements. I mean training with weight, because again, if we're talking about trying to hold on to muscle while losing body fat, not only are you going to get, a decent amount of calorie expenditure from training itself, the more muscle you can hold on to, the easier it is going to be to then, like, if you're dropping body fat and you can hold on to as much muscle as possible, you're going to be more aesthetic, you're going to be healthier as well. So all of those things are to take into account when considering weight loss.
And if you're looking at that, so everyone's looking for that holy grail of the best exercise for, for losing body fat. So you hear like HIIT, LISS, all this kind of stuff, right? Whereas in reality, weight training, if you take a 48-hour period, so you hit a weight session, over that 48-hour period, yes, you'll burn more doing cardio in the immediate aspects of doing that exercise. However, over the next 48 hours, the damage and repair to the tissue and the building of the tissue that you go through in that 48-hour period, weight training is the highest. So in terms of not only are you getting muscle mass, you gain a bit more aesthetics, you give that support to your joints of your body being stronger, ligaments, tendons, all that stuff. You also actually burn the most calories overall. So people should be doing that rather than running around in circles really slowly.
And also another, quick thing here as well is going a little bit too hard on the cardio. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing cardio. In fact, cardio can be great, but the issue it's good for your heart, all that kind of stuff. But if you're already like in your weight loss journey, you've just put in a small caloric deficit and you're like, and I'm also doing an hour of cardio a day. Where do you go from there? Add in the deficit. And then once you've got that deficit and you start dropping that weight, if you then need to, you can apply more cardio to increase your expenditure. But don't immediately from the get-go get really high amounts of cardio per day, because then you have nowhere to go from there. You're expending loads of calories from your cardio. But if we get stuck and we plateau, where do you go?
Yeah. Which ties in with having your calories super low. Yeah. Same kind of principle.
So that moves us on to our next thing. So that's fads. So we want to just have a quick go over what sort of like common mistakes people make around weight loss, and thinking that, for example, the one that we have been speaking about is 6 p.m. fallacy.
Yeah. So it's if you eat after 7 p.m. It's
it's actually the 7 p.m.
7 p.m. is the
facts for 7 p.m. 6 p.m. is nonsense.
We're being facetious here. It's a fallacy. It's exactly that. So if you eat after that period of time, it makes no difference as long as your calories would equate to the same amount you were eating generically, right? So it's your total daily calorie intake which matters. Yeah. So that calorie deficit rather than you could eat all your calories at 12 p.m. if you wanted to. I mean, you'd be super full. Yeah. But it wouldn't actually affect your fat loss. It's actually
now the only thing where you might want to spread your meals out more is typically the reason I give for wanting to spread your meals out and not just try to have them all in one go is just so that you have more chances for protein synthesis throughout the day. And again, when we're talking about protein synthesis, we're talking about gaining more muscle. So if you have protein that's available for your body to use to make more muscle, that's going to be better. So if you're getting all of your calories in one go, that can make it, a little bit more difficult for synthesis. But, there's still some people who work very well with intermittent fasting and stuff like that, so that it is an option as well.
Don't stress too much about it.
But don't worry about it too much.
The main thing is getting that gram per pound, which people struggle with enough. Yeah. But yes.
And just think more about your total daily intake. Don't worry about what times you're eating that much. It's not the end of the world. If you're out, if you're out or whatever, and you can't eat at 6 p.m. or you can't eat at 7 a.m. or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like just make sure your calories are right for the day.
Yeah. So the classic breakfast, lunch, dinner is still fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Breakfast is okay. Dinner is okay. Yeah. All of the foods are okay.
11sies. Get that Hobbit life.
The next one is eating low-fat foods will make you lose fat. That's not how it works. It's about calories. Again, it's just about calories. So yes,
fat does not make you fat.
Fat does not make you fat. Now, obviously, an excess amount of fat will make you fat, but that's an excess of calories overall that we're talking about. And the reason the fat is often demonized is because it's higher calories overall per gram of fat.
9,
basically.
If you're interested. 9 per gram.
So it is higher calorie, but it doesn't mean that you can't have fats. You can absolutely be very healthy and be losing weight with fat.
Your head's been cut off this
time.
It
has, but shall I just get back here? Oh, that's actually a bit better, isn't it?
Now I look taller.
I'm taller than you. I'm gonna see, but now I have to do this.
Anyway, down. It's not true.
I'm going to stay really upright, and I've cut my head off again now, so it's kind of redundant. Anyway, so don't demonize fats. Fats are not bad for you. Now, we just want to make sure that it is still within the right caloric intake, but it doesn't matter if your fats are a little bit higher than your carbs or whatever in your normal ratio. It's not the end of the world.
Same with carbs and sugar being the reason you're fat as well. Right?
Yeah.
If they're high, again, it comes down to exactly what he said. It's the total daily intake of calories.
Yeah.
It's not going to be you hit a certain threshold of carbohydrates and the world fell apart.
Yeah, and that idea that fats are the enemy or that carbs are the enemy. Actually, most studies show that depending on which one you prefer, higher carb or higher fat, as far as results for your physique, you can get exactly the same from both. So whichever one you prefer, as long as you don't have like out of control cholesterol or whatever, then we would suggest maybe you do need to maybe control your fat intake a little bit. But
that's very complicated.
That is getting very
what type of fats and all that kind of stuff.
Another more in-depth video. Just worry about the intake. Yeah. That's it really.
That's essentially it
for the first episode.
Yeah. So if you want to contact us, all our details will be down below.
Yeah. So basically that's it really. We are going to be doing a lot more content and trying to keep these videos relatively short and sweet, but we do have a bunch of ideas as to what we want to go more in depth with, as far as like gaining muscle, getting stronger, losing fat, all that kind of stuff. So we will go through all those and try to keep it really, really simple for you guys. And
just follow the information above, basically.
And
Don't
also
do the
smash the subscribe button or whatever they say. Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
That is going to be helpful as well. All right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Peace out.